Hey, what's up folks? My name is Jean-Claude and I want to show off these two units. Each one was purchased from Amazon. I'm sure there are other places to purchase them. The Lithonia Slim Light. The model is, let's get this correct, WF6 LED, and you see the rest there. This is a slim model. It's designed so that when you cut through the ceiling drywall, even if you're against a stud, you shouldn't really hit a limiting factor on being able to mount and secure this one. The Obsess, this is really the primary reason I put this video together, because there are a bunch of these that have been sold on Amazon with plenty of reviews, and there have not been many reviews for this unit. And there have been, I couldn't find a video. And so this unit, and I'm going to speak off the top of my mind, but I think it was somewhere between $40 and $50 per LED. And these are way cheaper. Way cheaper. I'm a big fan of you get what you pay for. In most cases you do. Some cases you don't. And we are in our new home, and we're not able to use this bathroom yet because while we were doing the repaint, we had a vanity light here, and after painting we realized we need to just go in and get some recessed lighting in this bathroom, because I'm just not happy with the vanity lights. Neither is my wife. By the way, this is not to code. I don't know if you know this or not. But here, let's get a look here. What I've done is essentially just, as they're intended to be wired up, where you go from one unit to the next, you use these boxes, and they behave as it's a dual role. It's a junction box, and it's also the driver for the LED. Now you can see with the Lithonia lighting, you have an option for a 3000 Kelvin, 4000 Kelvin, and 5000 Kelvin. Temperature, that's the warmth of the light. Sunlight, offhand, if I remember correctly, is about 5250 Kelvin, is about where sunlight measures. Ideally, this 5K would give you the best color rendering. But you can also look at the lumen. And the lumens output is, think of that as the volume of light, the intensity of the light. And so with this Lithonia lighting, you can see they have measured it so that the 4000 Kelvin output also gives you the maximum volume of light output. The Obsess unit is fixed. This is the 4000 Kelvin unit. They have a 4000, they have a 3000 Kelvin unit. If you look into, do a little bit of research into bathrooms, typically you're going to want, if it's a bathroom that's being used for actually getting ready and not just like, say, a spare partial bathroom where you may be a bit more inclined to make the lighting just purely comfortable, and you're not as concerned with the quality of the light. The quality of the light, you can think of it in two ways. You can think of it in the CRI rating, which is, let's get this in zoom. The Obsess unit has a CRI, or color rendering index, of above 90. Lithonia Lighting says this has a color rendering index of 90. In both cases, well, in the Lithonia Lighting's case, from the research I did, the 4000 Kelvin is what gets you the best color rendering index. You may have noticed looking at the box also that the Lithonia lighting, one of the big differences is in the volume of light output. Lithonia lighting, and what I'm going to do is this comparison. I've got them just kind of, bubblegum wired up. I'm safe. I'm not going to be sticking my hands up in there, yet it's shielded. It's good enough to be tested so that I can pull these out. As you can see there, well, let's turn it this way. You can see these are not on yet. All I need to do is flip the switch here. I have already tested it to make sure they actually do turn on. The light you see here is a hyper icon. This is actually a work light from my shop. We brought it here for doing some construction work. This has blown away any halogen work light stand I've ever had over the last 25 years. That I've done construction stuff from time to time. At any rate, you can see we've got a 1190 lumens rating for the 4K on the Lithonia lighting. And we have 600 lumens output rating for the Obsess. The Lithonia lighting, what was this, a 12 watt? Sorry, it's a 14 watt LED. They're saying it's a 100 watt equivalent to your standard non-LED, which I guess that would be incandescent. The Obsess is an 8 watt output. Yes. So it's going to be interesting, right, to see what type of light output you get going from. This is far less expensive. Not statistics, but the metrics we have here on paper look quite impressive, and yet this unit costs significantly more than this unit. And what I've done, now we're not using this bathroom, as you can see, it's a bit of a hot mess. I'm about to secure up whatever recessed lighting we go with here. But what I've done is I've set up my son's Broby, an orange fish, which looks like it's a wannabe something from Finding Nemo, and then a brown bear. And we do have an off-white shower curtain with some gray and black print. We have white tile that used to have white grout. The grout has not been steam cleaned. And then we have the color of the paint is no, it's not simply white. The trim we went with was simply white. This is agreeable gray. So let's see what we have here. I'm going to unplug this light right here, and then we're going to do some heads-up comparisons. The first thing I'm going to do is, let me get this thing set up. Which way can I do this? I'll do it 1, 2, center. Now let's see if this plays nice. I think I went a little far there. 1, 2. Do this one more time. There we go. Slide these boxes over. I did order 3 of each. And so let's do this. We're going to take one, aim it away completely. Actually, let's just take it off. There are quick connects here for both units, so you can wire them in and then just use that quick connect. And so here we go. What I'll do is I'm going to aim it dead center, left hand, about the 11 o'clock position, and we'll see which one has better color rendering. This is the Lithonia Lighting. We'll set this one aside and get this plugged back up. And we'll do the Obsess. This is the Obsess we are at about the 11 o'clock position. You can also likely see there's a difference in the spread of light. For the next test, what we'll do is we are going to aim it directly at the toys. Get it correct, there we go. This is the Obsess. While we're at it, what I'm going to do is continue to hold it at approximately 11 o'clock, at an 11 o'clock position to my head. I've got my body oriented, so I should be approximately the same distance when I do the Lithonia lighting. And we'll look at the difference in the spread. Now what I'm going to do is continue to aim at the toys, and my eyes are looking at the light to make sure that I continue to aim it. I'm using a small gimbal. And when I'm rotating one hand, my other hand wants to rotate unless I'm looking at it. And so you can see the spread here, possibly a little better. And we will step over to the Lithonia lighting. Let me get in position. I'll hold it at the 11 o'clock position. And let's aim it back at the toys. Can you see a difference here? What do you think? Is there a difference? Which colors look more accurate to you? We'll look at the spread here. You can see there is a much wider spread with the Lithonia lighting. We'll do another test here. Let me set this up a little further back. And I am sorry for this not being a perfect test, but I'm kind of doing the best I can with what I've got. And do it in a single shot for continuity's sake. And what I'll do now, I'm going to place the light, each light, approximately in front of this hole, because I don't want to suspend the units here and possibly get myself popped. And so I am sitting about 6, maybe 7 inches off of the wall. This is the output. I'll rotate it back 45 degrees. Back down. We'll go 45 degrees that way. Back down. That's it. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera or not, but my kids are going bananas in the basement. They're going insane. The same thing here. Saying, oops, well, that kind of stinks. That might cause a problem for me. See if I can bend this out of the way. Hopefully I don't undo. I'm going to have a limiting factor here, folks. I am sorry to say, but I am not so sure I'm going to be able to make this play nice. This is going to affect the output, what's showing just a little bit, at least a little bit, but we'll do what we can. This is a non-scientific test, of course. Go back 45 degrees. That's about 45 right there. You can see a big difference in the spread there. Going back down. And go 45 this way. And back down. Turn this off. All right, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to unplug these units, and I will turn the camera back on here in just a few moments and go over some of the hardware differences, and then give you my personal opinion. A camera, the sensor on a camera can render things whatever direction, but the human eye is very subjective to what looks good. So I will give you my 2 cents on what I think looks good on these lights. First thing is first, I wanted to show how I have this wired up. The box was just closed over. The wire was just about like so. And here, this, if you don't look over at this doesn't look awful. And then what I've done is I used a wire to not only hang it on the hole This is a very crude version of what I had, but this was wrapped around both of the boxes so that there was no pull here nor here, and it was basically hanging from the wall. So it did look pretty awful, but for its purposes, it was totally all right. So let's get into this just a little bit. Let me detach these, and then I'll be right back. So you have accurate numbers here. The Obsess LEDs currently are $45 and some change a piece. We'll call it 46 bucks. And then for the Lithonia Lighting Slim LED, it comes in essentially at $21 a pop. There's your cost differences, your actual cost differences. Some of the aesthetic differences between these lights that you're not going to see when looking at it with the light on, kind of as I showed them, at least not easily, is the fit and finish. Now, for me personally, I'm a big fit and finish person. The devil's in the details, and I don't like things. I mean, I don't want to be wasteful or spend my money on opulent things. I like to get a good value for what I buy, but I'm also a buy once, cry once kind of guy. And that's why a little bit of a story, but I originally purchased these. I saw these, but I was unsure. It wasn't a matter of could I afford to buy 3 of these at a little over 2 times the cost versus these. It was more a matter of, could I spend less and still accomplish what I was looking for, the light quality I was looking for. The problem I have, which maybe likely many of you don't have, is with what I do for a career, I use studio lights and work on fine automobiles and work on making the paint look a certain way and whatnot. And so what that means is I work with, at least for my industry, they're very expensive lights, and it gives me incredible color rendering. Our eyes are not straining through the day because the lights are wonderful. Now, the lights we work with can cost, just for the light and the driver, again, this is relative. In the actual film industry, it's chunk change. But for what I do, I don't know anybody else that uses the kind of lights we use, but I can spend $800 on just an LED light and the driver, and then kind of getting into some of the other stuff. You can spend hundreds of dollars on a single tripod, and you can really, before you know it, be at about $1,000 per light setup. So when I'm looking at a $21 LED and I'm used to having to spend hundreds of dollars to get a quality light, I'm a bit skeptical. Anyways, 21 bucks a light. I got these. I hooked one in, kind of how you saw, mocked it up, asked my wife for her feedback. I really just didn't like the output. I didn't like the color rendering. Not to be a stickler for it, but you can have tons of volume of light. You can have a lot of lumen output, but it means nothing if the color is not more accurate, or if it's not as accurate as is ideal. Not even what's possible. I mean, I could bring studio lights and set up the house with nothing but studio lights, but aesthetically, the house itself, it would look awful to have these big lights set up. And so when I saw that, I decided I'm going to go on and pull the trigger on these. Something else you likely noticed, look at the difference in size. I'm not going to open these up, but I imagine, and this is, take it for whatever it's worth, it's an opinion, but a guess. but the LED wafer is probably about so large. And then you have this opaque, diffused, like frosted, heavily frosted plastic lens. And what it's going to do is diffuse that light. In the case of the Obsess LED, you have a 3-inch bezel. This is a 6-inch bezel, but I would be willing to place money on the fact not only is the bezel smaller, but the actual LED output module, it's not really a sensor, I guess, but the actual LED, the light emitting diode, I can guarantee it's smaller on this unit. The other thing you may have noticed is on the back, the Obsess has a heatsink and the Lithonia Lighting does not. And that's pretty telling to me because all of my LEDs have heat sinks at my shop, because essentially the higher output, smaller form factor LEDs, and I'm not going to get into the science because I don't completely understand it. I can't explain it on a technically sound level, but I'll give you the layperson understanding, is that you need a heatsink because they get hot. The fact they placed a heatsink on this drives up the cost to produce this unit, I guarantee, significantly, because LEDs themselves are not expensive in a vacuum. But when it comes to manufacturing heat sinks, there is a lot of mass to this. These weigh about the same. I have a hard time feeling which one weighs more. I'm just going to go in and say they weigh about the same given the size. Typically weight, when it comes to electronics, you know, all other things being equal, the heavier thing, probably better technology. I know that sounds very crude, but same with my LEDs at my shop. The ones that are higher quality, they weigh more. They also have a better driver. The higher quality LEDs have better hardware across the board. I did not see on either one of these that they were UL listed, Underwriters Laboratory listed. That doesn't necessarily mean they would be trashed, but I didn't see it anywhere for either one of these. Lithonia Lighting is, to my knowledge, an American company, so take that for whatever it's worth. Talking about, let's step back to this for a moment. The actual bezels. The bezel on the Obsess is nicer. The Lithonia Lighting literally feels cheap in every possible way, not just in the actual light, but also I'll say one way that it does feel better is the threaded portion is nicer than the Obsess. That may have more to do with the size of the connection, I don't know. But actually threading it on to get really picky could also have something to do with the hardness of the plastic, the hardness of this connector. It does feel harder than this one. This one has a tick more give than the Lithonia Lighting has, so just the sheer factor this one is harder may make it the plastic against plastic on the threading may make it slide easier. I don't know. Other than that, the Obsess feels better, looks better. The hinges are tighter. The springs that hold the hinges, because what you'll do is you'll cut out the drywall to the just inside of the outer portion of the bezel, basically to the inside, like where my pinky nail would be. You would lift these up, slide it in, and then it's going to snap over the drywall like so. The springs feel nicer on this. The action is nicer. I don't think that's super relevant in terms of how it will actually perform and hold. I am sure this would completely suffice. I guess what I'm getting at is I do feel like more goes into the manufacturing of the LED in the housing. I also, let's stick with kind of more of the aesthetics right now and some of the touchy feeling things. The Obsess junction box and driver, I do like how this feels more. I've got to say, it means nothing in terms of performance, because once you wire this in, close it up, and in the case of the Lithonia lighting, you set the color temperature to where you want, and you should secure it to wherever it's going to be in your ceiling with like a screw. It shouldn't matter. But some things are telling just in how they're built. I'm not going to try to quantify that statement. I think folks that get it, and folks who are aren't into that kind of stuff, I'll save you time. Just buy this. Just buy the Lithonia lighting. If the way the bezel looks, the way the bezel feels, doesn't matter to you. If you don't want to see, I mean, I think this is a more attractive look in the ceiling, just that, than this. This feels like, it would be in like a elementary school in a ceiling somewhere. This has an aesthetic that I think is just nice. In terms of the driver boxes, another difference is with the Obsess, you're going to use wire nuts to connect your cables, your wires. And for the, let me show you this out. For the Lithonia lighting, I forget what these connectors are called. Does it say what they are? I cannot remember what these connectors are called. And it doesn't say on the box. I looked it up. By the way, they were both wet rated, so they're both good for a bathroom, which is where I primarily was shopping for putting some recessed lights. But these connectors, in terms of simplicity, I wouldn't say one's easier than the other. I mean, how hard is it to, in either case, you've got to deal with a stripped wire. With a wire nut, you just sister them up, place the wire nut on, twist until you meet enough resistance, stop, and that's that. In case of these connectors, you're going to have an exposed cable and wire and press it in one of these three holes, one of these two open holes rather, and there's an alligator clip type action on the tip, and once you press it in, there's resistance, almost like a fish hook. Once it goes in, there's a reverse bite when you pull on it. So I don't think there's an advantage one way or the other in terms of the ease of connection. In terms of the ease of removal, this is easier. I've done this twice. I prefer the wire nuts. That's very subjective. You may be able to tell how the boxes were manufactured. The Obsess, this is a nicer box in every single way. Even the form factor, it's smaller. Look at the size. It's a bit deeper. I'm sorry, let's go this way. Looks like it's maybe another third deeper, but it is smaller in every other way. One of the things I read online with the Obsess, one advantage, let's see here. Did they get that figured out? It looks like they may have gotten that figured out because there were folks that were complaining. Oh, I see what it is. Okay. So the box at this width, if you were to cut the hole, the relief hole, if you were to seat it from the inside, you cut the hole and then you seat it. Of course, this would go in first, but what some people do is they connect them. They have the wire dangling. They'll open their junction box and driver. They'll connect it, and then they slide. They kind of press the wires up. They slide this in. This is connected, and then they just take it and pop it over, and then they take their light and put it in, and they don't think anything more about it. Now, that's not really the right way to do it anyways. You should be securing your box to some part of the home, not just sitting loose up in your attic somewhere. In that way, there's a margin between the edge of the bezel and the heatsink where you need to make it a bit bigger than the heatsink, but not so big that you would have open attic space showing around the bezel. Folks were saying you need to install this from the attic side because the hole is too small here to slide this in. Well, from what I'm looking at, it's not that the hole is too small, it's that you need to make your hole just a tick bigger, but don't make it so big that it's sitting outside of the bezel itself. This box clearly has no problem with that. Another advantage this light is going to have is that unless you've got some type of LVL with another stud bumped up against it, you should not run into a situation where you cannot mount this. So you could just cut your hole from the bottom. I would recommend going to the top, make sure there's no wires against it, but you could potentially just cut your hole and just know it's going to go wherever it's going to sit flush. Can't necessarily do it with this one because it's going to interfere with any studs or wood framing that it would come across. Speaking about just the light output, I knew the bar was set pretty low when I looked at this one wired up. And I was hoping at $46 a pop, I was hoping these would be nicer. I do think they are. I don't need a light meter to tell me the CRI, the CRI, the color rendering index, I feel is significantly better with the Obsess light. I do feel like for 46 bucks, not only aesthetically am I getting better light, I feel like I'm getting a better built light, and I do feel, and I do have a trained eye. I won't say that it's trained to the point that it will replace the absolute metrics that a light meter may provide you with, but my eye is good enough to see a difference in the quality of the light. This one has a far wider spread. The Obsess has a 45, what did it say? It's got a, where is it? It's a 45, yes, a 45-degree beam angle, which means it's essentially going to shoot like this. And you can see in the video, it's a pretty sharp edge to that, the beam. So in my case, I am going to have 3 to 4 of these in that bathroom. I'm going to have 2 above the vanity, and then I am going to see how the light looks there. And if I feel like I could use just a little bit more of the vanity, and these are going to be treated a bit closer to the mirror. If I want more light for that space in particular, then I will place the third light will be kind of as if somebody were sitting on the toilet, maybe about a foot ahead of where the front end of the toilet is. So if somebody's sitting there, they have quality light, even if they're bending over and they're looking at their phone or something. Not that you need light for a phone, but and then I do intend to put one of these over the shower. These are going back. I don't like them. I don't.
maybe it puts out, what was it? 1190 lumens without this opaque cover on it. I don't even feel like, I feel like in this one, I can't speak in as absolute terms as I can with the accuracy of the color that these are putting out when compared to one another. But I do feel like this one puts out more light. Now, it doesn't spread as much, but that's not so relevant to me because it's a small space, and at 45 degrees, when it's in the ceiling, it's with those two lights about this far apart, right here, there's going to be significant crossover, doubling up. I'm not going to have any problems with the beam angle. So I know I'm long-winded. It's probably at this point quite a long video, but if you're anything like me, it sucks not buying something one time and being happy with it. I hope these last, the Obsess. These are going back. If I can't get a return for them, I'm not using them. I literally would rather waste the $63 and go through the effort to put these up. One other thing, I just think the size of this is more elegant than this big old ugly looking 6-inch bezel. I think this is going to look better in our home, and I am going to immediately be placing an order for a number more of these because there are some other spaces that we want to add some lighting to our home. Our home was built in 1995, and when we moved in, I'm staring at them right now. There were 2 can recess lights, and I don't like the output. I think they're not attractive, and quite frankly, at 46 bucks a light, yeah, 46 bucks isn't that bad. Even if you got to buy a bunch of them, I mean, how often are you buying lights for your home? Anyways, I'm gonna have some links in my description below. They will be affiliate links, and in that way, if you appreciate this video and you want to buy these lights, I will make an absolute killing on the lights you buy. I mean, think about this. If you buy these at 21 bucks a piece, I think I'll make about $1 per light. And if you buy these, I'll probably make $2 to $3 per light you buy. So, I mean, I'm going to be living large if you use my affiliate links. I mean, I'm going to be killing it. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and I might be doing some more videos here about some of the stuff I've experienced in, and we're not really doing a full-on remodel at this point, but we are doing some small DIY type stuff around the house, and I'm putting some door handles on, and some of the experience I've had with, you know, do I go with MTech, do I go with Baldwin? Is there a different brand? Is there something where I don't have to spend quite so much and still be satisfied with it? To tile, getting a tile saw. I used to lay tile years ago, not full time, but did some general construction stuff, and looking forward to doing some tile around here. Anyways, I may be putting up some other videos, but thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful to you because, like I said, I could not find a single video review explaining why this would be $46 and why this would be $21 and which one somebody would be happy with. But I hope this has been helpful to you, and I wish you the best in finding the right lights for your home.